Right, so with just a day left of the Lebanon ceasefire to go, Netanyahu's days of abusing it with impunity with little or no comeback, as both Lebanese forces and Hezbollah, having not risen to the bait, looks set to end. Over 1,300 breaches of the ceasefire have been committed by the IDF, for whom the rules never seem to apply, and with time running out for them in Lebanon, an extension to the ceasefire having already been given to them to give them more time to leave has been marked by them very much not leaving, and even escalating their atrocities all the more. But with a new president in Lebanon now, and a new government having now taken over, clashes have happened not just between Israel and Lebanon, but between Lebanon and Hezbollah too, at least in a political sense. An issue that will only ever help Israel if the two forces in Lebanon cannot get themselves on the same page. Right, so the looming end of the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is upon us, set to expire tomorrow. Not that Israel have really taken any notice of it in the slightest, having breached it incessantly and repeatedly as they have. But with the end of it, the powder keg that has been Lebanon and Hezbollah, both by and large adhering to the ceasefire, whilst Israel hasn't, is waiting to now explode, with all of the implications for regional stability and civilian lives that will inevitably come with that. But whilst the ceasefire has been in place, the political landscape of Lebanon has of course changed. They now have a new president in Joseph Aoun. He has appointed a new government, a new cabinet led by the former president of the International Court of Justice, Nawaf Salam, a government which includes 5 members of Hezbollah, of course. They might be regarded as just another terrorist organisation by some countries, but they are also elected political figures as well. And when Lebanese governments are always coalitions of some form or another, this should not be particularly surprising to anyone, but no doubt mainstream media will sensationalise such stuff. Yet, despite Hezbollah being this powerful Lebanese political and military group, or terror group, depending on where you live, they are also at odds with their own government over how to handle Israel, plus the small matter of the flight suspension with Iran that has come into play, purely on the basis of Israeli claims as that was, which has caused further division between the Lebanese government and Hezbollah, Iran being their great allies, of course. So with the ceasefire ending and all the mess that will no doubt come with that, as Lebanese forces seem certain to begin retaliation again, who stands to gain here and who stands to lose? And most importantly, what does this mean for all of the people caught in the middle, the innocent civilians caught in the crossfire? Well, the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon has been a sick joke at best. Officially, it was meant to de-escalate tensions along the border between the two nations, Hezbollah required to leave the area south of the Litani River and be replaced in effect by Lebanese army personnel, and Israel required to get out. But Israel have continually claimed that Hezbollah haven't left, that hasn't happened, and that has been their justification to remain themselves, having won them one ceasefire extension already, but not a second. That extension in and of itself a ridiculous rewarding of Israel for having repeatedly violated that ceasefire, and it has just gone on. For example, just last week, Israeli troops killed a 13-year-old girl in southern Lebanon and kidnapped several others. These actions have sparked outrage, not just in Lebanon, but across the region, but I doubt you've heard very much about it. These breaches aren't isolated incidents either. They've been a consistent part of the actions of Israelis in southern Lebanon ever since the ceasefire began there in late November, all part of a pattern of aggression that undermines the very purpose of the ceasefire. Yet Israel never received any censure, the violations severely underreported in Western media, so much of what we know coming from alternative and foreign media, so that the looming end of the ceasefire raises not so much a question of whether the ceasefire held, but more a question of if it ever really did to begin with. And a speech issued by Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem certainly underlines how they feel about it. On the 18th of February, Israel must withdraw completely and without any pretext, and the state must not accept 5 points or anything else. There is no excuse for the occupation to continue, and the position of the Lebanese state must be firm and decisive. The country will not be developed except through the cooperation of all parties, and we are ready for that and to approve the necessary reforms. We will not leave people neither in shelter, nor in restoration, nor in reconstruction. God willing, the houses will return better than they were. The Prime Minister took the decision to prevent the Iranian plane from landing under the pretext of aviation and civilian safety, and this is an implementation of the Israeli decision. I call on the Lebanese government to reconsider the decision to ban Iranian flights and express its sovereign position. We are against the attack on UNIFIL. Trump's positions on the Palestinian issue are very dangerous positions that want to end Palestine and its people. Trump's positions are a political genocide after Netanyahu and America failed to achieve genocide during the Battle of Al-Aqsa flood. We condemn any displacement of Palestinians in the region and reject their displacement to Jordan, Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Today it has been proven that everything Israel does is under American management and leadership. Arab and Islamic countries must be present to reject the displacement of Palestinians. The American project is a danger to everyone and to the Arab and Islamic countries. We are ready as Hezbollah to contribute if the Arab and Islamic countries have plans to reject the displacement of the Palestinians. We do not surrender, we are not defeated, nor will falsehood rise above our heads. Yes, Israel wished to remain in 5 points of southern Israel, which is not acceptable to anybody, and nor is the planning by the big orange man-baby in the US, Donald Trump, to redevelop Gaza and displace Palestinians into Egypt or Jordan or wherever else, and nor indeed is the suspension of those flights from Iran, done on Israeli pretext as that was, though the attacks at the airport in Lebanon, allegedly from Hezbollah supporters, as much of the media have latched onto, funnily enough, have been condemned, and rightfully so here. Now let's be clear about this. Ceasefires are supposed to be a two-way street, are they not? But when one side repeatedly violates the terms, it's hard to see this as anything other than a one-sided effort to maintain control. And that raises serious ethical and legal questions about Israel's actions, and by association serious questions regarding Lebanon choosing to pay attention to them over Iranian flights, putting the Lebanese government at odds with Hezbollah. Complicating matters even further beyond the division Israel has sown successfully already regarding Iran is that growing rift between Hezbollah and the Lebanese government, and that includes how to deal with Israel going forwards as well. Hezbollah has long been a key player in Lebanon's resistance against Israel, no matter what you might think of Hezbollah as a body or a group on the whole. But right now they're at odds with their own government over how to handle these escalating tensions, as this is not a good place for the nation to be in. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called for the full disarmament of Hezbollah, calling them a terrorist organisation, as many countries do, and a threat to regional stability, because taking a moment of self-reflection himself appears to be beyond his deranged and tiny mind. It's the pot calling the kettle anti-Semitic, or something along those lines. Hezbollah was literally born out of resistance to Israeli occupation in the 1980s. People forget this too often. This is how they came into being. Israel had kept invading Lebanon. Hezbollah was born out of that. And for many in Lebanon, regardless of the terrorist designation that this group has in other parts of the world, they're seen as defenders of the nation. So when Israel demands their disarmament, it's not just a call for peace. For a lot of people in Lebanon, it's a demand for surrender. And that is something the Lebanese government has to be acutely aware of, no matter how many people might find such a notion unacceptable. It is Netanyahu making demands whilst offering nothing in return again, essentially. Especially when his side have done nothing but breach that ceasefire, because it's what Israel always do. Peace can't be achieved through one-sided, unilateral demands. If Israel truly wanted stability, as they're claiming here, and they don't, it just wants control, and they'd engage in negotiations if they meant it, though, not issue ultimatums. But at the heart of all of this are those caught up in the middle, of course, the people that we should all feel for. People like that 13-year-old girl who lost her life, or the families displaced by violence, still unable to return to their homes because the IDF is still stopping them from doing so. They're the ones paying the price for political and military posturing on both sides at this point. So, what can we do? First, we need to stay informed via alternative and foreign media, sharing what we find. We need to think critically about the narratives we're being fed when the mainstream media does decide to cover Middle East events like this, because too often it is with an Israel sympathetic narrative underlining it all. And we also need to demand accountability from those in power, especially in Western nations where the narrative is overarchingly pro-Israel, because peace doesn't just mean the absence of war, it's the presence of justice as well. And Israel, above all, are owed a reckoning in the dock. The end of the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon isn't just a deadline, it's a crossroads. And although one road points to a resurgence in conflict on both sides, the other is how much other entities more widely may be drawn into it. One such group that have opined on supporting Lebanon against Israel, and who may now have the capabilities to actually do so militarily themselves, the Houthis in Yemen. Having managed to strike targets in Israel as far north as Haifa, they now think they can reach the Lebanese border, it seems too. Get all the details of that story in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new content published daily. And also it helps support the channel as well, which is very much appreciated. And I'll hopefully therefore catch you on the next vid. Cheers folks.